That's what I thought I heard.
So the change...
Hold on a moment.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Is there anything else that you want to say by way of presentation?
I think that I'm not asking you to approve this completely citywide. We'd like to be able to work right now, and I think whatever you'd like to do on that, but I asked you specifically for that last time. I'm not asking specifically for that this time.
Okay.
Now what?
I don't...
Hold on, we'll ask
Okay,
questions
we'll get
about
to
that
it.
in a moment.
Yeah.
But we have members of the public in the audience. Now would be an opportunity for them to come forward and be heard regarding new business item number 5, if they so chose. With no one coming forward, I believe I was hearing questions from both sides of the chair.
Stereo.
Yes.
Christie, go ahead. You were louder.
I just don't understand that what you were saying with what you're actually asking for.
At the last meeting, we asked you to implement this policy citywide. But I think that's actually going to require an ordinance because the EUB specifically has the ability in that ordinance to do their own policy, and we would have to have an ordinance to take that out if you were going to implement this citywide. And that's a discussion that may or may not reach consensus soon, so we'd like to move forward. Well, given all the projects that we have coming up that we would like good bids and good responses on, I would prefer that you authorize us to move forward here and deal with that later.
So this would basically impact all city business with the exception of the EUB, and then we would come back with an ordinance to make this effective for the EUB.
We would come back with an ordinance that would amend 2296 that would not give the authority for purchasing, to establish your own purchasing policy if you would like to have it implemented citywide.
Right.
Got it.
So I'm specifically retracting what I asked for last time so that we can move forward on all these projects we have coming.
But aren't we condoning that acting outside of the law behavior
I'll still be pulling those
by
things off.
sidestepping it?
I'll still have to preempt anything that doesn't go, that falls outside the new policy. I'll still be bringing those to you.
So we'll still be approving them as we have been, but they'll already have been approved and paid, so we're still
And that's
really
what's happening now.
It is, I agree, but I think what Larry's saying is we're not really fixing anything,
Yeah, I think we're just avoiding a problem.
No, what I'm fixing is
the city policy.
the rest of us being able to move forward and work on these pretty significant projects we have without spending a lot of time on RFPs and stuff.
Still updating what council came to a consensus thought was an outdated policy for
Yes.
the city's
Right.
perspective.
Right.
So it's still going to accomplish that goal by needing more work done.
I'm
But
taking one
Cheryl?
step.
Council has the ability, if they would like this to apply, when this is approved tonight, to approve it citywide. And then at the next meeting, we can bring you back the amendment to the EUB ordinance that removes that ability to set a purchasing policy. We have several projects that we really need to move forward on, and so we're just trying to be able to get a decision on being able to move those city projects forward.
Was this just due to the fact that, I mean, I'm just speculating here, so grant me that. Did we just not have the time to be able to put together an ordinance modification to make this apply to the entire city?
No, you can.
I think there was a consensus amongst all of us that we wanted to have a unified purchasing policy.
Okay, no, actually, you can approve, if you decide that you want this to apply citywide, then tonight when you approve it that it will apply citywide, and next meeting, we'll bring you the ordinance that, not an ordinance for this, but an ordinance that amends, that amends 2296, that removes the ability for the EUB to establish a separate policy.
Okay.
And if that doesn't pass, then this
Then we're in the
whole
same
city,
boat.
we'd be in the same, well, we still have the amended policy, we still have the new policy for every other department.
Yeah, and that needs to
That is
happen.
correct. You would still have this
It's
policy.
still two separate functions. We don't have to add citywide on the verbiage here, because when we pass it, it's a citywide thing. It's been ordinanced out of through the EUV ordinance.
That is
right?
correct.
Right. We don't need to add that verbiage to accomplish the same.
No, you just need to direct staff that you want us to bring that back to you as an item.
Well, I think that we can make that determination right now. I think we
Okay.
would want to have that brought back as an ordinance modification for the next meeting.
We'll have it next meeting.
Yeah.
I guess I still don't understand, though, why that's important. If it's not legal, I mean, if the ordinance, the EUB ordinance is void, then why is this, I mean, I understand why for the rest of the group, but why doesn't it also apply to the EUB?
I think I addressed this last time, that obviously there are legal concerns, and I spelled that out in my memo about the policies and the ability of the EUB to establish their own purchasing policy. Really, this just makes abundantly clear that that authority doesn't exist, so that a third party can't review that ordinance, rely upon that ordinance, and then, in essence, make a claim that the city adopted by ordinance a purchasing policy, and I was relying upon that official conduct of the city.
That's it.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right.
And then, back to my first question. So the thing that you somewhat editorialized on was the 50,000. That wasn't necessarily something we agreed on. That was sort of you said a hybrid, or did I misunderstand?
Let me see if I can go back
In
to
other
what
words,
I
the
said.
$25,000 that Cheryl would have,
Formal bids.
somehow you mentioned there's a $50,000 limit.
Okay, so
Or some,
the process by which we would offer, instead of doing an RFP process for anything below Cheryl's authority, so, in other words, informal processes would still be allowed up to 50,000. Originally, that's not how it was written, because her authority was 50,000 the first round.
Right.
So what the hybrid model was, in order to gain efficiency, get better diversified bids, we'd still like to avoid a formal process for anything that we expect to be less than 50,000. But we would bring you a request for a recommendation for approval. So you would still have you weren't comfortable with 50,000.
well,
You would still have the ability to say, I don't like it, over 25, but we wouldn't have to go through all the formal RFP work and delay projects and go through all that work, and nobody wants to respond because they think the budget's too small.
Still hope for a more competitive
It'd be-
environment.
Right.
That was our hope.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the hybrid model. That gives you final authority, and we can do a more informal process.
And we've already witnessed that reluctance on
Many-
quite a few
Yeah,
recent
yeah.
projects.
Several.
Every small project that's been brought forward has
Exactly.
been one or two bids, yeah.
Exactly, so
So
this
this is a
helps
hope.
fix
Right,
that
it's,
issue.
we're hoping,
Yeah.
yeah.
Any other questions? Because if not, this is a really short motion.
I move we approve the revised purchasing policy.
Second.
Motion Harrison, second Freeman, that we approve the revised purchasing policy. All those in favor? Are there any other questions?
Well, I think that fixes one of the issues that I have with regard to Cheryl's authority being dropped to 25. I think that there's some big projects coming down. I'm a little uncomfortable about bringing it down all the way down to 25,000, but if we can do informal bids up to 50, that helps significantly fix that problem, so I'm happy with that.
Okay.
Good.
Anyone else? That being the case, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We have a new purchasing policy.
Thank you, appreciate it. Oh, somebody else's turn now.
All right, there you are. All right. New business item number 6, consider adoption of ordinance number, Katie, do we have an ordinance number?
2442.
Approving request by Gardner Auto Body and Storage to rezone property and portions of property located at 1076, 1084, 1092, and 1098 East Santa Fe Street from C3 Commercial District to MP1 Planned Restricted Industrial District, Z-13-03. Mike Hall, good evening.
Thank you. This is a rezone, a request for a rezone from C3 Commercial District to MP1, which is Planned Restricted Industrial District, and the approval of a preliminary development plan for the expansion of an existing mini warehouse facility with outdoor storage of recreational vehicles, towed vehicles, and other vehicles in storage, and an existing